Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Our panel, black, beautiful, bold women. They're back. We're all here to talk about some of the biggest issues surrounding our community. This is the part of the show that we love. Ameshia Cross, Brittney Cooper, and Candace Kelley. Welcome, ladies. We did start that group chat, and we've been going back and forth. I apologize, Brittney, that it was those two who interrupted your nap on Saturday. They just kept going and going. I'm like, oh, she's getting ready to get him. She's getting ready to get him. Please, ladies. But I do want to start with, and I know you ladies want to talk about it too, this thing with Kamala Harris, because it's under my skin here. The approval ratings, who knew they had approval ratings for VPs? They're calling it the worst in history, 28%. There's also this gossip scuttlebutt coming out of the White House that her team is dysfunctional. They can't do anything right. They're difficult to deal with. This woman of color, the first VP in American history, first woman in power facing scrutiny. Let's start with you, Ameshia. What do you make of this gossip?
This is the intersection of race and misogyny. I think that we had a window into this type of thing with Hillary Clinton's run, but we're seeing it full scale when we're watching the attacks on Kamala Harris. This is the first Black woman VP. This is a woman who's a heartbeat away from the presidency. This is a woman who many outside of the Democratic Party, obviously we see it from the right, but many inside of the Democratic Party as well see her as a threat. We cannot pretend as though race has transcended Democrats. It absolutely has not. I also think that the White House, as well as her team, need to do more to protect and shield the VP from criticism that honestly doesn't even make sense. The majority of Americans, as well as those in the press right now, are expecting things out of the vice president that, one, we haven't expected out of any other vice president, and two, don't even fall under the vice president's role. She is doing exactly what she's supposed to do, and she's doing it in a way that she is being lauded abroad. They love her in Europe. She visited the Northern Triangle countries. She was applauded. The press there loved her. Come back to America, and she's getting slapped left, right, and sideways. This would not happen if she was not the first Black woman in this role. And it's quite frankly disappointing, expected, but extremely disappointing.
But Brittney, now see, Ameshia hit a nerve because she's talking about Kamala going overseas and being a rock star. Remember who else they said that about? Okay, and it was such a problem when he wore that tan suit back home. Am I wrong, though, to speculate that this could be coming, and Ameshia touched on it, from inside the Biden circle, where you have long-standing operatives who perhaps don't want to see this narrative of her set up to be the next, okay? And who knows what's going to happen with the bloodbath and the midterms and everything, but to set her up to be president one day.
Look, absolutely. This woman has the toughest job in America because she's carrying the entire hopes of the Black community with her into this role as a historic first. Anybody who's ever done something the first time knows how difficult it is. Folks are expecting her to be the chief diversity officer for the entire country, in addition to being the heir apparent to the presidency, in addition to not stealing too much shine from an old white man, right, who progressives were not particularly excited about. And let's also not forget that Biden has a historically embattled relationship to Black women. He still hasn't atoned for what he did to Anita Hill. And so this is not a man who has a great track record in terms of treating Black women particularly well. And on top of that, he has wanted this moment his whole life. This man ran for the presidency 3 times. He is trying to take up all the space in the room. And what he has decided is that there's a zero-sum calculation, right? That either he's going to come forward as a strong person, as a unifier, or he's going to hand the mantle to Kamala. He's not ready to do that yet. But what I think we owe her as a community is they've only been elected for a year. They haven't even been in office for a year. There is time for her to pivot. And I do think he has to give her a suite of things to work on that she can actually get some political wins on. I agree with that. I do think she was set up to the border crisis. There's no win in that for absolutely anyone. But I also, she has time, and we've got to remember that handling all of that baggage is too much for me. Yeah.
Yeah, give it to her. We're strong, Candace, but haven't you ever had somebody dump all the losing cases on your desk? I mean, the professor's right. The border, voting rights, they're giving her all the L's when you got the Joe Manchins and Cinemas in the way of a lot of this stuff. So how can she win? How can we win? You know?
Listen, So yes, cyber attacks, voting rights, as you said, COVID, for goodness sake, that is still ongoing. When we look at what Kamala Harris is doing, she is making waves in some respect. It's just that nobody's at the ocean listening to these waves, right? Because we have the media that is not even giving her the coverage that she is due because she is doing so much. She was over in France with, as we talked about, at peace forums, making waves there. She is loved in Europe, but we don't hear about that. The White House actually needs to do more. They need to speak to the people on their insides to figure out what is all the scuttlebutt, as you said, that's going on here. We need to take care of in-house because outside they're listening to all of our arguments that are going in-house. This is family and we need to take care of this. And we need to reposition Kamala so that the media does pay attention to the things that she's doing. Joe Biden has said that she was right there when it came to the infrastructure bill, doing what she needed to in order to support and give guidance. We just don't hear about her. The media is just not there covering her. That is the White House's fault. They need to do better.
And who knows if the scuttlebutt is true anyway? I mean, I'm looking at, an Oval Office and the administration who fumbled a lot of things, that people criticize. So I don't know that these things that people are talking about rise to the level of dysfunction or difficult, which is that buzzword they like to lay on us. But I want to talk more about love. There was this thing with Kamala Harris and her love life leading up to her announcement for the presidency when they thought she'd run, and then throughout, and old lovers, and it took her this long. It offended me that there's this thing with us that they chronicle, like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to, is there something wrong with you? Is there something wrong with you, Professor Cooper? This is what they do to us. And there's this new survey, and before you even take it and go, and I know you're going to take it and go, there's this new survey, 62% of Black women are single. I say, so what? But what's behind it?
Absolutely. Look, the whole sort of argument of American democracy is that Black women are dysfunctional, right? What irritates me about this, though, is the narrative that we have in our communities about the ways that Black women are undesirable, right? We've had these studies about how Black women are the least likely to get callbacks or to get responses when they engage in online dating. So I think that there are two things. One is we are more single because we are more economically independent. And one of the things that we have done is romanticize marriage, but marriage was always an economic transaction before it was anything else, right? The romance came later, even in our historic telling of this. So that is one part of it. The other part of it, though, is that we also have tried so hard in our communities to assimilate into the American narrative. And in the 1960s, the government literally said that Black families were a tangle of pathology because Black women were heading up too many of the households and that brothers weren't working, right? And so there is a structural narrative about the fact that we say in our communities that our communities are broken when Black women aren't married and when they are running households all by themselves. And so we have to do a reframe as a community and begin to understand that now that it's happening in white communities, they want to talk about it as evidence of progress and historic shift. When we were doing it first, they were talking about it as pathology. So what happens if we reframe Black women's economic independence as a mode of forward thinking when we know that the economy cannot support men being the breadwinners all of the time, which is really what this is being driven by in the first place, that men are being pushed out of the economy in particular ways and women are carrying more of the weight. And Black women have always done that. We have always known that. And so we are not pathological. We are creative. We are forward thinking. We are from the future. And so we've got to tell the story in a way that doesn't allow people to weaponize this against us.
Yeah, it's our narrative. We should tell it as I look at the feminist book behind you. And we don't have too much time left, but I want Candace and Ameshia, you both talk about it because there's this competing narrative. Hey, we want love too. And we just don't want to settle, okay? And we're allowed to be great and bold. And as, Ms. Cooper says, head up our own households and take care of our children and whatever else we want, or don't have any if we don't want to. So what about that competing narrative?
Well, listen, when we talk about this narrative, the narrative is changing. Families look absolutely different. And what Brittney is talking about is correct. We know that economically speaking, Black women are more independent. There are also statistics that show that white men are getting married less. So we look at all of this. women are getting more education. Black women have historically gotten more education. And where we are now, the more education that Black women get, they start changing not only their mindsets, but they start changing their physical location, going to areas where there may not even be that many Black men. So, when we look at it that way, this is why we see the numbers that are shifting. There are many people who I know in my circles who they're not married. They're not necessarily thinking about getting married. They're thinking in more independent ways. They're thinking of ways that might shift them in terms of just America in general, to not try to live up to this construct of what it means to be a woman in America. And we had a really good conversation over text. We were talking about how married women also, they get treated a little better. There's also this competing narrative of, okay, if you are married and you're not married, are you better than the next? Society has set it up for the homes that we live in, for the lifestyles that we have, to be two-person, to be two people. And so we continue to compete against this, but at the same time, Black women that I know are creating a new idea of what it means to just be a family, even if it means being a family of one.
Does it make us feel less than, though, Ameshia?
So I think that the media has set it up to make us feel less than, that Black women are undesirable, something that Professor Cooper said earlier, that, and the social media platforms and on online dating, as well as app dating, Black women are consistently ranked at the bottom. They talk about Black women being too loud, talk about Black women being too aggressive, or their sizes not being competitive in the market. I think that all of that should be thrown out. What we now know is that Black women are definitely more educated, the highest educated demographic of anyone in this country. We also know that Black women are becoming more economically stable. Again, to Professor Cooper's point, there was a time in history, not just in America, but across the globe, where marriage was an economic construct. Many women did it because they could not feed themselves without it. Today, we have so many women that are doing the work, that are raising entire communities, not just their households. And they are able to do this, and they have a checklist of things that they are not willing to let go of just to tie themselves to someone else. I am one of those women. Thank God, I have a partner, but we're not looking to do anything because we don't have to. I'm extremely happy where I am. I think that, to your point earlier, Sharon, it also matters where you live. DC, for instance, has a ton of successful Black women. They have a much smaller number of available Black men. So a lot of Black women here date people out of state. Again, ding, ding, my man is in Atlanta. I think that we also have to look at the fact that Black women generally get married later in life, where your average age now is 28 for white people. Your average age for Black people is in their mid-30s. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Studies also show the later you get married, the longer your marriages last. So I don't think that all of these numbers are incredibly horrible. I just think that we need to reframe the discussion about Blacks and marriage.
40% of marriages end up in divorce anyway.
Go ahead, Candace.
That's it.
All right. Now, Candace,
I'm just saying.
She told me she almost became a divorce attorney. And I mean, Candace, you got it together. You got your cash in order, but you would have been, I mean, had you done that, okay, if you could stand the headache. I'm waiting on, listen, I love talking to you ladies. I'm waiting on the statistic, though, that talks about all the white men who slide into Black women's DMs, okay? We got options, and I'm not saying that that's the option you want. I'm just saying there's a whole lot of statistics that don't encompass this whole 62% single Black women. There's a lot more.
You ever watch screenshots, Sharon?
And we are
there's
desirable.
A white man in my inbox all the time.
All the time. Like, what is that about? That's another table, isn't it? Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that, because it's. I don't know what's going on with this, but I am quite curious about what do you want? Okay. So thank you, ladies, for keeping it all the way. We love you. See you next Wednesday.